All right, welcome, welcome. So glad to see everybody. Thanks for those who are introducing themselves in the chat. Keep that up so we can keep knowing who's in the room. We're glad you're here with us today. My name's Abby Oakhart. I'm the Training and Education Manager for the Financial Empowerment Network, or FEN. And so it's great to see everybody here. We're gonna do a few housekeeping things first, and then I will turn it over to our facilitator for what's going to be a really great workshop and time together. So you're in for a treat today. So if you are here to talk about serving clients in times of crisis, you are in the right spot. We know right now we're experiencing a lot of challenging and uncertain times. I know for me, some days it feels like there's a new crisis at a personal level, community level, national level. Like there's always something new happening. So we want to explore together how we best help clients who are experiencing a crisis and talk about how we help them and coach or support a person when we might be in our own crisis or be existing in a space that feels like it is there's urgent crisis around every corner. So we wanted to have that conversation today. We're hoping today that you leave feeling a little less alone with whatever you might be experiencing. I'm really excited. We're having a panel of financial coaches we will hear from who will share their experiences, practical advice for guiding clients through hard times and how to take care of themselves as well. During those hard times, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll have some discussion points for the panel, but we also encourage you to ask questions, engage in the chat. Let us have a community discussion together as well. So we want you to be an active part of that. And before we go into the panel, we'll engage in a guided activity about moving beyond scarcity and to introduce a framework that helps us understand our mindset when we are working with clients. So we know when we're working with clients in crisis, it's easy to default to urgency and fear and problem solving. And we often are holding space for people who are overwhelmed or in survival mode. And a powerful thing I think we can do as coaches and support folks is to help folks find clarity and calm and help shift mindsets for people and give a different perspective. So that's part of what our activity is a little teaser for what the activity will be that Jenefeness will lead us through. And before we introduce our facilitator, I'm going to do a quick introduction to FEN if you're not familiar with who we are. So the Financial Empowerment Network, we are a network of folks who envision communities where low and moderate income individuals and families are able to achieve financial well-being and belonging. And we do this through partnerships that support access to affordable, effective, and relevant service, products, and other resources. We also are collaborators, connectors, and partner makers. We exist to work with all of you and to be a liaison and bring resources to you to bring professional development opportunities like this. We host also a monthly community of practice called the Financial Coaching Network. And so you should see in the chat a chance to sign up for that if you're not already a part of it. This month, we have a really special conversation planned around caring for the coach. So really talking about how do we take care of ourselves as we are being the helpers to everybody else. So we'd love to have you join us for that. FEN also does a lot of other things with asset building coalitions, Bank on Washington, and more. So for sake of time, we won't go into all of that, but would encourage you to check out our website. We do have our June workshop is planned for Credit 101. We have a series actually we're going to do this summer about debt and credit demystified. So June, we'll talk about Credit 101, the basics, the myths. So that will be Wednesday, June 11th. Thanks, Ryan, for all the links in the chat so you can register for that. And then if you save the dates, and we have July understanding collections. We'll talk about understanding collections, medical debt, knowing your rights and options when it comes to that. And then in August around student loan repayment options. So the links are not live yet to register for those, but save the dates and we will have those links out in all of our communication channels when they are ready. And also save the date for the Bank On Forum Pathways to Financial Belonging, which will be September 18th and 19th in Tacoma. So we would love to have you there. And registration for that will be out in hopefully June-ish, I think. Getting a good nod. If you want to see other workshops, we have all of our past workshops recorded. So this is just a big long list of all of those, a quick QR code scan if you want to get to our events page and to our YouTube page to view all of our workshops. You can find those there as well. And this is just our agenda for today. I know it helps some folks know like where are we going, what's the plan for today. So we after this welcome, I'm going to turn it over for our guided activity, and then we'll have the coaches panel, and then we'll have a close and an opportunity for folks in the chat to share any resources that you want to with the group as well. And so with that, I would love to introduce our facilitator, Jenefeness Franke, who will be also our panel moderator. So you're in for a treat because anytime I hear Jenefeness share something, I learn something new. And I love her energy and her creativity and passion for what she does. So she is a powerhouse financial strategist, transformational speaker, and the visionary behind Fiscal Finesse Consulting. With over 2 decades of experience in financial coaching, Jenefeness specializes in helping individuals and communities navigate credit challenges, build wealth, and shift from scarcity to abundance. She's the creator of the Level Up Credit Improvement Movement and a passionate advocate for economic justice, trauma-informed care, and entrepreneurial equity. Today, she brings her wisdom, heart, and hands-on tools to help us lead and coach with clarity, even in the most uncertain times. So let's give a warm welcome to Jenefeness Franke, and I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're great.
Perfect. All right. So thank you, Abby. Thank you to Finn. I'm excited to be here and to share just a little bit of good stuff with you all. So when we talk about reimagining abundance in challenging times, and it's hard sometimes to go through the day and not even think about what's going on in our world, right? I mean, I don't know if you all can do that, but it's hard to do. If you're able to do it, beautiful. But one of the things that I'm noticing, and I think the reason why Abby wanted this to be the topic, is that we have a lot of clients that are going through a lot of challenges, and even some of us are going through challenges. So when we're thinking about the decisions that we need to make and decision making and organizational practices when it comes to addressing the needs of our clients, we cannot ignore the mindset and around scarcity and abundance. So I'll be drawing from the Sites of Shaping framework. The Sites of Shaping framework came to me through the Trauma of Money certification. So that's a certification that I recently got, and I know Abby is in that certification right now. But I learned so much, and so I'm constantly wanting to share what it is I'm learning. And so with the Sites of Shaping, which we will get into, it just really helps us to understand the difference between scarcity and abundance and where we see ourselves in different landscapes. So we'll talk about that in a moment. My hope is that you will leave this session with a greater propensity to shift to an abundance-oriented approach that can improve your program design, your outcomes, specifically for folks who are in crises and navigating crises. Let me see, our objectives for today, we're going to go over. We're going to talk about, it's pretty jam-packed, and I know you're probably looking like, how's she going to get through all this? But I am. So I'm going to talk about the impact of scarcity and abundance on our mindset. We're going to explore how scarcity thinking affects our financial decision-making, both personally and institutionally. We're going to learn how abundance-oriented approaches can create long-term financial stability. We're going to introduce and engage the Sites of Shaping framework, breaking down the 6 interconnected sites that shape the financial mindset. And we're kind of going to discuss how systemic and personal factors reinforce cycles of scarcity and or abundance. Where we're going to reflect on our personal organizational practices through a guided activity where we map out where scarcity and abundance shows up for our own financial mindset. And then identify how your organization's policies and programs may intentionally or unintentionally reinforce that scarcity mindset. We're going to go into breakout rooms and kind of talk about that a little bit more. We're going to explore healing money trauma and financial resilience by understanding how historical and generational financial trauma impacts certain communities, and discuss the strategies for breaking that scarcity cycle and fostering financial resilience. We're also, lastly, we're going to go into identifying strategies for implementing abundance-based solutions, okay, and shifting from that resource-based financial band-aids that a lot of us use, especially when we're not using trauma-informed financial empowerment. So those are all the things we're going to talk about. Y'all can hold me accountable. You can say, wait, you didn't talk about that. You lied. Or you can say, girl, you killed that, okay? Because that's the goal. So in the chat, just let me know that you're all in the right room by putting in the chat a W for we're all going to win and learn today. A W, just so I know, okay, y'all didn't just log on and walk away. I'm an educator, so I get students that log on and walk away. So I need to know that you are all still here and still engaged, all right? Wonderful. So let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to say is scarcity and continued financial trauma have a profound effect on the brain's chemistry and function, particularly through neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin. This is stuff that I learned in the Trauma of Money curriculum, and it really changed my mindset. I started doing a bunch of research about dopamine because I'm a person that has never ever did dope, but I can say now that I have, because this dopamine is already there in my brain. So these chemicals, they regulate our motivation, our stress response, and social bonding, meaning that prolonged financial stress can rewire the way that we think. It can rewire our brain, making it harder for us to break free from cycles of economic hardship. I won't even get into my history, but what I will say is dopamine is the brain's reward and motivation neurotransmitter. So it fuels our drive to pursue opportunities and even take advantage or take action toward our goals. So I know a lot of you meet with clients and you're like, okay, I've mapped it out for you. I've held your hand, and yet you are still on level 1 when we should probably be on level 3. So oftentimes that may be due to their dopamine. It may be due to the fact that their neurotransmitters are not reacting the way that they should because they're in crises, okay? So chronic financial stress and trauma actually decreases our dopamine production, and it leads to decision fatigue and reduced motivation to seek financial solutions. And so when someone is in survival mode, their brain focuses only on short-term actions, short-term strategies, right? Making it harder to plan any long-term activities. And so I don't know about you all, but I know I've done this myself, and I had clients do this where you have a huge bill coming up, but yet you take a trip and you're like, hold on, how in the world are you spending money on this thing when you know you have something coming up? It's because I can't think about that right now. That's too much for me. But I can think about this short-term thing that's going to take care of my needs. Anybody else experience this or had clients experience this? Just put an E in the chat. Okay, so I'm not just preaching to the choir when I say that. So there's this scarcity loop, right? It keeps individuals in a cycle where they focus on immediate soothing actions like buying that purse or taking that trip rather than big picture planning, okay? So I'm not even gonna get an example of that because I gave you one already, but I'll talk about oxytocin now. Oxytocin is the bonding and trust hormone. It helps people build relationships, feel secure, and also form strong communities. So continual economic hardships leads to shame, isolation. It makes us feel like we're afraid to ask for help. We're afraid to trust in financial institutions or engage in collective economic efforts because we're ashamed. We talk about grief a lot, but what we don't talk about in our communities is shame and guilt. We'll talk about grief. We know the 5 stages of grief, but do we know anything about shame and guilt and what that does to us, what that does to our bodies, what that does to our chemicals in our bodies? Probably not. But a lot of our communities have historically been exploited by financial systems, We know about the redlining, the predatory lending, all of the things, right? It makes it so hard for us to trust wealth building strategies, especially now in the current political climate with the DEI rollbacks and the immigrant targeting and all of the things, right? Without high oxytocin levels, people may fear financial success because it seems unfamiliar, unattainable, or it's something that could be snatched away because so much stuff is changing in a short period of time. So when I talk about our brain in crisis cannot make sound decisions, sound financial decisions, does that make anybody be like, okay, well, where are we at then? Because if we can't make sound decisions, why are we even here? Does it make anybody like, okay? So the solution to that is neuroplasticity. I can't even say that word. Neuroplasticity. Did I say it right? Say it. Okay, good. I see some head nods. But that's the good news. The good news is we can rewire our brains. Even though this is continued trauma that's been going on for a while, we can rewire our brains with neuroplasticity. Okay? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt throughout life by forming new neural connections, right? So it allows people to relearn behavior, shift our mindset, and recover from past experiences, including financial trauma and scarcity-based thinking. So for those of us who've experienced financial trauma and prolonged stress, there is hope, right? So to increase our dopamine, I have some things on the screen for y'all. So you can do like really small, achievable goals. You can have a reward system, right? Or re-education and unlearning some things. So that is how you increase the dopamine. The other way you can increase oxytocin is by having community-based support. We thrive in our communities, right? We feel good when we're around our tribe. We're not tiptoeing around, but we feel like amazing when we have trust and connection. So trauma-informed education and storytelling where people can see themselves in your story. Does this make sense to you all? If it makes sense, just put a D in the chat for dopamine. We all on dope today. All right, I see quite a few D's. So wonderful. I'm going to keep it moving. Hopefully, y'all are nerding out like I did. Because I'm telling you, when I started learning about dopamine, I was like, okay, I'm on dope. I love this stuff. I felt like it's just a real nerd. So we're going to explore how our mindset around abundance and scarcity are influenced by various layers of our lives. So these layers are where we're going to go into that framework of sites of shaping. Is anyone already familiar with the sites of shaping framework? You can just put SOS in the chat if you're familiar. Or just put an N for not familiar, so I know. Okay. All right. Lovely. Well, this is great. I am so excited to be sharing this with y'all for the first time, okay? So sites of shaping. It's a powerful forces that impact how we view and interact with money, resources, and opportunities. So by understanding these sites, we can begin to kind of reframe scarcity mindsets and foster a culture of abundance for the communities we serve, especially Alice families. And there's those of you that don't know what Alice families are. It's asset limited, income constrained, but yet employed. So it's not the folks that are in poverty and TANF eligible and all of the things. It's the folks that's right there in the middle that's like, I've been working my butt off. I'm actually working multiple jobs. I have limited income and limited assets, but I am employed. Those are the families that we typically deal with. So I may say Alice several times, and hopefully you all understand what that means now. But the sites of shaping framework helps us reflect on where abundance and where scarcity shows up in our lives. It breaks down our experiences into 6 interconnected layers or sites. And these layers reveal how societal structures, personal beliefs, and community dynamics shape our behavior and our perceptions. So the very first site is the spirit and landscape. Okay, so I'm gonna go over all 6, and then we're gonna do an exercise. The very first site is spirit and landscape. So this is where the cultural and environmental influences on our financial beliefs. So A person from an oppressed community might feel that their ancestors were stripped of generational wealth and land, leaving them with a sense of financial hopelessness. And they may internalize financial struggles as part of their identity. And then it becomes almost impossible for them to change and adapt. So when you think about that, that is a scarce mindset. They've done this to my ancestor, they've done this to my people, and so therefore they're going to do it to me. And so that's that spirit and landscape and historical site. But if somebody has an abundance in this area, they say, okay, some indigenous and African cultures, they emphasize reciprocity, stewardship, and interconnected wealth, believing that financial wellness is tied to communal and spiritual well-being rather than individual accumulation. So that's the very first site. This is the biggest one. This is spirit and landscape, okay? The next one is the social norms and historical forces. So social norms and historical forces, this is where we have systemic inequities, we have racial wealth gaps, and societal expectations around money. So if you are possibly in Black and brown families, you might have historically been excluded from wealth building opportunities like home ownership due to redlining, systemic oppression, and white supremacy. And this can create a belief that financial success is unattainable, leading to cycles of debt and reliance or fear of investment. And so this site number 2, is social norms and historical forces. So it could either be abundance or scarce. So I just gave you a scarce example, but an abundant example is when you're recognizing historical patterns, and it allows communities to break the cycle through financial literacy, financial education, cooperative economics, and community-led investment models like, our credit unions, our trust, and all of this CRP work, the reparations movements and all of the things, okay? So that's site number 2. Site number 3 is our institutions. So the institutions, the policies, the workplaces, and the financial systems that shape access to resources. So if you're thinking from an abundance mindset, you might be thinking institutions that prioritize pay equity, financial wellness, employee ownership models. They create sustainable wealth building opportunities. Community-centered organizations that seek collaborative funding instead of competitive, scarcity-driven grant models that build stronger ecosystems. So that's the third site. That's the institutions. The fourth site is our community. So this is our social networks, our mutual aid, our collective support systems. So when we're thinking abundantly, we might think our communities embrace cooperative economics. It's like Black and brown led organizations and Black owned businesses that are thriving, right? Participating in mutual aid, supporting different models where our community thrives, right? The fifth site is our family and our intimate networks. So this is where we might have generational money trauma and financial habits that we've learned from our loved ones. So if you have families who openly discuss finances, teach wealth building habits, and encourage entrepreneurship and investing and creating financial confidence, even while you're young, you might have an abundance in this site, right? So it may be different for a lot of us, right? We might not have learned it. Maybe we know, we got taught it along the way. The last site is individual. So of course, this is where you have your personal money mindsets, your behaviors, your emotional and relationship with finances. So I'm going to show y'all this model. So this is what it looks like, the sites of shaping, the 6 sites of shaping. So it starts out with the spirit landscape, and then it goes all the way to your individual. What we're going to do, let me look at the time, let me make sure. Okay, good. So these sites of shaping, they're not just independent categories. They create a system, and they shift one site toward abundance. If you shift one site toward abundance, you might shift others toward abundance. So I'm going to show you what that could look like. So rather than existing as an individual, we exist in every single one of these. And so when we look at monitoring what that looks like, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. Abby, can you drop that in the chat so everybody can grab it? So what we do with this is we're going to identify personal, organizational, and community patterns of scarcity and abundance. So we're going to map it out. And when we map it out, what that looks like is this line right here. You are going to either place an X above the line or below the line. Above the line means you feel abundant in that site. Below the line means you feel scarce in that site. And so what we're going to do, we're not just going to look at what that looks like for us. We're going to say what that looks like for ourselves. We're going to say what that looks like for our organization and even for our clients. Okay. So your X for community, it could be really close to the line, whether that's, really close to the line above the line or really close to the line below the line, right? And it could be different for yourself, your organization, and your clients. It's absolutely going to be different, but it helps us to shape where we should be, right? So we're gonna open up the breakout rooms, and we're gonna talk. Actually, before we open up the breakout rooms, I'm gonna give you all an opportunity. Hopefully, were you able to download that link? Just put a Y in the chat if you were able to get it, and an N if you were not. Okay, wonderful. All right. So please, let's take about 2 minutes to go through and put your X's on there. And again, you can do above the line, below the line, close to the line, way above the line. It's up to you. But I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do that. Okay, thank you, Regina. You are putting X's above the line if you feel abundant in that particular area. So we have 6 areas. So as an individual, if you feel abundant as an individual in your finances or whatever, you will put an X above in the white area. Okay. If you feel like your family or your intimate network, it has an abundant mindset, you will put an X above the line. If you feel like institutionally, you might feel maybe a little bit scarce, you put an X below the line. You can put it as close to the line as possible. Are we putting it on the slide or on the Google Doc? It's up to you. You can copy the Google Doc that's on the Google Doc. The link that Abby put into the chat, you can copy it and you can put your X's right on there. Oh, I see somebody put it on the slide. It would be great if we could all put it on there, but that's probably not going to work out. It's going to be looking a hot mess. Okay, so Miranda said her Google Doc doesn't open right. You can do this later. You can print it out if you want to. You can do it later. So our 2 minutes is up. I'm going to show you all what mine looks like. So here's what mine looks like, and it's the blue. I'm sorry, not the blue. It's the black X's. So when you look at individual, it's probably the highest it could get. I definitely feel abundant. And where I feel scarce is the social norms and the historical forces as a Black woman. That's where I feel the most scarce, right? That's where I feel like, you know what? And I'm really, really close to being scarce when it comes to institution. And I'm just giving you all an example because when we start reframing and shifting towards abundance, then we can see what that looks like for ourselves. And I just showed you my site, my individual one. I didn't show you my organization and definitely not my clients. But what we should be doing when we're doing this reflection is kind of thinking about, what does this look like for me? And how does this differ from my clients? And how can I make sure that when I'm speaking to clients, that they're actually able to become more abundant? And when I went back to the oxytocin and the different dopamine, Here's some ways that you can heal financial trauma and responding to financial stress, especially when your clients have that scarcity mindset in any of the sites of shaping, right? I showed you I have it in one of them, but your clients might have it in multiple, right? They may feel really good when it comes to the smaller sites, but when it comes to the larger sites, they may not feel as good, right? So scarcity mindsets are often inherited through historical exclusion from wealth building. Financial trauma is passed down generationally. So if we have trauma informed approaches, this is how we can really heal financial trauma. Abundance thinking at every site, right? Not just the smaller ones, but all of them. And everybody thinking more abundant, and what that looks like for our clients. Culturally relevant materials, that's super huge. People need to see themselves. We talked about that when we talked about oxytocin and how it's built on community and trust. If I don't see myself, if I don't see relevance or representation, then it's very hard for me to trust. So eliminating barriers to access is another way. So any questions before we open up the breakout rooms? If there's no questions, just put an NQ in the chat. And if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. I see there are no questions. Does this resonate with you all? Awesome. I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. Love it. So I went through what I said I was going to do. I want to make sure that I did what I said I was going to do. I want to give you all some time to kind of reflect. We have some breakout rooms. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. She said it's a stretch to think abundantly in this moment, but it feels important. And if we're feeling like this as coaches and financial mentors and advisors and all of the things, we can imagine how our clients are feeling. And so if we can make that shift towards something that is more abundant, it'll be that much easier for us to be able to help others. But if we can't do it, there's no way we can help anybody else to do it. So that's the purpose of us helping or hoping that we can make that shift and reframing what abundance looked like and what it could look like. That's the hope. That's all we can do is hope, right? But if we have the framework and if we have the knowledge, we can absolutely do things differently. So thank you for saying that. I do want to say that in our breakout groups, oh, I see some folks in the waiting room. You can actually absolutely talk about this, but I'm going to drop some other questions that can also be discussed in the breakout groups. Abby, did you want to open those up?
Yep, I will go ahead and open them. And if you are not in a space where you can be in a breakout room or not able to join, we know some folks maybe are in the cars or whatever, not wanting to be in one, you can stay in the main room and we will all come back together in Jenefeness 5 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, 5 minutes is perfect.
Okay, great. So we will go ahead and put you in breakout rooms.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are going to start our panel. But before we do, I would love to hear from just maybe one or two people about some insights you got from that slice of shaping or from your small group. So please raise your hand while we get our panel together. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Leah. Go right ahead.
Yeah. We, in our group, it was brought up the idea of peer mentorship, that something that having lived experience, even either with, you know, mental health, substance use, things like that, right, is often seen as a liability, right? And all the sorts of societal messaging that comes along with that and institutions that you interact with. But then we also think about, right, that is then something that uniquely qualifies you to become a peer mentor. And what an abundance, right, that your experience, instead of all these limited opportunities or things that are limited by because of your life experience,
Mm.
um, then right is seen as an asset, a way that you can give and grow in your community and with your community.
Thank you for that, Leah. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anybody else? One more person before we get our panel started. Please share with us.
I want to share something that somebody else shared regarding financial classes that they do with clients. They said that something that they use is just like showing people how they spend their money in a budgeting class. And then people are like, well, this is how I do it. Kind of like going from that mindset to like, oh, what are some things that you would like to do with this money that you're going, that you're using for something that it's not giving you that much enjoyment, and you have like 10 subscriptions, or you're paying for a gym and you're not going to the gym. Like, what are some things that you actually would like to do? And then like start thinking that that money can be invested. So as a switch of the possibilities, but the person already has the power and the financial ability to like to make those choices. So just working within what we have.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gina. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to go into our panel, and I'm going to introduce our panelists. I'm actually not going to introduce them. I'm just going to call their name and welcome them to the stage, and then they're going to introduce themselves. And I'm going to ask each of you to share just something, an area where you feel abundant, and share a little bit about that as you're introducing yourself. So the first person is Danniela. So Danniela, please share with us an area or a site where you feel abundant, and tell us a little bit about you and your organization.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danniela. I'm a financial coach here at Tacoma Community House. Well, I guess an area where I feel abundant is, and on a personal level, I guess, my feeling towards helping our community, especially the Hispanic community, which I resonate with, being a first generation Guatemalan. So it's just very important for me and on that level.
Thank you for sharing that. And Danniela will be on the panel. The next person is Trevor.
Hey everyone, I'm Trevor Plates. I'm the senior financial coach here at the International Rescue Committee, the IRC, the office that we have here in SeaTac. In terms of abundance, I would say, the one that comes to mind for me personally would be related to the largest circle with about like spirit. I think about my family and my like history and what the things that my grandparents had to go through living in this growing up in this country. And so I think that as sort of the resiliency there is really like resonates with me and keeps me going with some of the difficult times at this point.
Yeah, especially with the work that you're doing. So that definitely resonates with me. Thank you, Trevor. Next, we have Rocky.
Hi, I'm Rocky Hollenbaugh. I'm from United Indians of All Tribes Foundation. I think the first thing that resonated with me is like on an individual level, I feel like I'm getting to a place where I really can recognize if something is good for my, abundance or, and I'm grateful for it or not. And so by recognizing, I'm able to kind of either can like use that or not use that today. And so I think that's a skill that I've been working on. And yeah, so I think that's an introduction.
Thank you for that. So yes, we're going to get into crises. So as we are thinking about, the current, I mean, the current state of our environment, especially with each of us working in different areas and working with different types of clients. What is it like being a financial coach right now, especially in this climate, with folks in crises and even with yourself maybe possibly being in crisis? So I'll start with Rocky.
Yeah, so being a financial coach during this time is interesting because you're concerned about like whether you're going to have the resources to continue the work moving forward, but you're also at the same time realizing that this isn't about you or the organization, it's about your clients and helping them to get to the next place in their life. And so establishing a framework that allows them to do this with or without you is important for our organization, to be able to service them in a way that that maybe I don't have to be there the whole time to hold hands or like to walk them through. They can do these steps on their own. And we built something called the Bank Blast Challenge to really do that. It's 67 tasks that people can do on their own. And then, in fact, it's better if they do it on their own. And so they can walk through that challenge as they see fit or can do them. And so it really helps them to feel empowered to increase their knowledge in that area. So.
Thank you for that, Rocky. Trevor, with you being with the IRC and all of the things that's going on with immigrants and refugees, what does that look like for you in these times?
Yeah, well, I won't lie. I mean, it's pretty tough, right? It's tough work at the moment, both from just on our organizational level and like I think a lot of social work and humanitarian work is kind of dealing with that on like a funding side of things. But then on the other side, dealing with my clients as well, and the stuff that they're going through is also, I'd say, uncertainty in general across the board is the biggest challenge and the biggest crisis going on at the moment. Able to For me, trying to be able to be flexible and meet people where they're at and sort of answer the questions that I can and sort of be able to be there for them and acknowledge the things that I can't answer just because to sort of pretend that we have all the answers for some of the things going on the uncertainties that they're facing. I think that would be dishonest, right? It's very difficult out there, and so we want to make sure that we're honest about the challenges that people are facing with the current administration.
Thank you for that. Speaking of being honest and forthcoming with information, especially if it's tough information, Danniela, can you share with us like how that's showing up for you with your clients, like especially as we're coming to the end of certain funding cycles? What does that look like for continued support or sustainability of programs?
So, right now, most of the people in our program are scared of what's going on. I don't know if you guys could see the news of what's going on. Many people are facing a lot of challenges, some deportations, and just general very difficult things that are going on. But with our organization, we're trying to support them in any way we can, just by being there and listening to their issues, maybe handing them some other resources outside of our organization. We are helping them just by doing that and just being there for them, I think.
When you say what's going on with the news and what's going on in the news and the fear that a lot of us have, are you seeing like particular stories with your clients and in your community?
Yes, we've had people who have been battling since they got to the United States with their immigration status. And well, I don't know, yesterday or 2 days ago, there was an ICE raid in Kent where it was, I mean, they're at their jobs, and people they're scared of going out. Even some are even scared of going to our organization because they're afraid something like that may happen. So just by we can't really ensure anything for them, but trying to even meet with them online or by text or phone, giving them some resources or some support that way, or even listening to their troubles. has been really proven to help them.
So no, I haven't seen the news. I'm sure a lot of people have, but it depresses me, so I don't watch it. But I definitely, in conversations with folks, just like in talking to you right now, I hear, some of the things that's going on and how folks are. I was talking to someone just last week and they were like, well, people are just not showing up for work because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Like they are so afraid that if they go to work, they won't come home. And so what is that doing to our economy? What is that doing to our communities? What is that doing to, the everything, that fear and that scarcity mindset, which is rooted in truth, because we see that it's happening all around the world. What do you want people to know about what it's like serving clients right now? What type of support do you all need? And I open it up to either of you.
Well, I can speak a little bit then, I guess, to one thing that I think about or that I try to focus on at this point too is that a lot of this, like you're talking about, the scarcity mindset that's being sort of implemented through facts of the reality of the situation, that's very intentional, right? That's something that they're pushing for, like directly to have happen to create these sort of situations for people, and so it pushes me to keep doing the work that we do because that it needs to keep happening, right? It's intentionally trying to stop it from happening. And so like us staying there and committing to it, even as it gets more difficult, is like really important as part of the work that we do. In terms of what other people could do to support, I think I really appreciated what you were talking about in terms of I forget which of the circles it is, but when it comes to institutions and finding more collaborative institutions and supportive institutions with each other, rather than this sort of very competitive grant-based models that is often the case in the nonprofit world, I think that limits our ability to respond in the way that we need to. And so advocating for that, as all of us who do this type of work, or if you're on the other side of things and are able to fund these types of programs as well, having that more of that be a mindset that we can have going forward, I think would be really helpful for keeping the work that we do, like a strong foundation for the work that we do, rather than kind of splitting us up into different groups.
I love that. And that goes back to that abundance mindset. Thank you for that, Trevor. Rocky or Danniela?
You can go ahead if you want.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just really liked what Trevor said. I think that he hit home on that. Being able to do this work continuously, it means that we have to figure out how to support the organization while supporting our clients. And so being able to find a way that it supports the organization doing the work is definitely something that's beneficial for sure for everybody. So thank you for sharing that, Trevor.
Yes, thank you. I also agree. I think on the personal level, people can, or us, we can listen to the experiences of the immigrant communities and the communities that we're serving in general. And like you said, if you work in a place that can help them, like you have to ask yourself, like, are your services like truly accessible? Are you giving your resources in other languages? Are you understanding like the cultural differences between everybody? Just those things would be very helpful.
Is there anybody here that deals specifically with our youth and understand what's going on? I mean, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? And we already know what this is doing to us as adults, what it's doing to our mental health, what it's doing to our oxytocin and dopamine and all of the things, and actually what it's doing in our bodies. I mean, I have this book that I read probably once a year, The Body Keeps Score. It's just a great book. And it talks about how it may be in our memory, it may be something that we don't even recall as quickly as we may want to, but our body will remember it when things are triggered. So is there anybody here online? We have, over 30 something folks here. Anybody dealing specifically with our youth and how these crises, the multiple crises, are affecting them? Anybody? Any age? Regina?
Yes, I'm dealing with students in the schools, and they are, high school students. But what's happening now is we're an organization, we support them in filling out their financial aid applications, considering career pathways, applying for scholarships. So we usually are working with, we're trying to bridge the gap in the economic divide. So we intentionally target a population of students in order to bring in those first generations, et cetera. What we're finding now is those students who prior just wanted to take a gap year because they were tired from school now are kind of losing hope. They see what's going on. They don't even think it's worth it anymore. They aren't willing to make the efforts to even try because they don't think it's not a matter of, oh, I can apply and get something, but the aid keeps changing, things keep getting dropped, the enrollment needs are changing from like universities, community college. So yes, it's affecting them, and it's like they're losing hope and they're too young to be in that situation.
Thank you for sharing that, Regina. And thank you for bringing up hope and the fact that we're losing hope. Our young folks are, and us, right? So I want to pause on our panel really quickly and give everybody on this line, like I said, it's over 30 something people here. If you could just give one word of encouragement, one word of hope, what would it be? And I'm asking our panelists too. I'll come back to you for this same question. But if you can give a word of hope, a word of encouragement in these times of crises, in our challenging times right now, what would that be? So please use your chat to be able to do that. And I'll ask our panelists while you all are doing that. If you have a client that's coming in and they're really distraught, especially dealing with fear around, being deported, around not having the resources they need to survive for the following month, not being able to, we have folks that are making decisions like, do I purchase a meal or do I purchase my medication? Because that is a real place. And when you're having those folks come in and telling you, hey, I don't have enough and my medication is this much, and I haven't eaten a good meal in several days, and those type of crises that people are in. So I'll start with you, Danniela. What type of hope can we give them, or words of encouragement?
Well, I would tell them, that these are very difficult times, but we're all in this together. Me as a financial coach, I can be there for anything that they need, even if it isn't, for financial coaching. I could be there just as a ear, lending an ear for them, and that we'll get through this. This is temporary, and better things are coming ahead.
Thank you for that. And Rocky?
I just ask, how can I help? How can I help? That's it. That's where I would be at with that. So, and listening, of course, Danniela hit that on the head for sure. Being an open ear.
Thank you for that. And Trevor?
Yeah, definitely listening is like such a big part of this type of work. If it's just acknowledging that it is tough in the first place, can just kind of put people in a different mindset and help them kind of release some of that tension to start with. Beyond that, though, for like practical advice, I think too, like breaking it down to those small steps that we talked about earlier, that can be really key for building hope. They can be very overwhelming, but like there are certain things that you have control over, and trying to make sure that you take some time to think about those as well, so that you can like make those sort of small victories is pretty key.
It's so important. Thank you for that. And I want to say to everybody, despise not the intangible things that we can give. Maybe our program doesn't have any more money. Maybe our program can't pay a bill or can't support or whatever the things are. But just like everybody here has said, being that listening ear can sometimes save a life. Can sometimes be just what's needed because they don't have anyone else to listen to the things that they're going through. I don't see, thank you all in the chat for all of that encouragement that you're putting out there. It's definitely needed and well received from all of us. I don't see any questions for the panelists, so I'm going to ask one more question. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer after this question. But the question is, how do you all take care of yourself? Like, we're helping others, we're doing all the things, and we're bound to become weary. You know, the Bible, I don't know what y'all believe in, but I believe in the Bible. And the Bible tells us to be not weary in well doing, but it's hard not to get weary in this work. So what are you all doing to care for yourself and helping yourself to continue in this work?
I can go first.
Okay.
So things that I do to take care of myself are like gardening. I started to garden, so like I'm eating nutritiously, so like that's gonna helpful for me. But it also takes care of like, are my kids gonna be eating healthy? You know, so me and my kids say like I have them go out and garden with me. So pretty much our whole backyard is like a garden. It's not a huge backyard, but like I actually have a backyard coming from like a apartment, so it's like amazing to me.
Love that for
Um,
you.
so that's one of the things. And also just spending time with the kids, right? Trying to spend as much time. I do coaching for my son's soccer team on the weekend. So just getting out there and we doing activities with him and being active. Exercise is definitely a major factor in mental health. Like how the more exercise I get, the more my mental health is stabilized. So it's just really important.
I absolutely love that for you. I've been wanting a garden for like 3 years and just haven't done it yet, but I admire the folks who actually do it and get it done. So thank you for sharing that, Rocky. And next
Mhm.
time, bring us some cucumbers or something.
I know it's gonna be like July, but yeah, I got you.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Trevor.
Well, I see in the chat here someone mentions the leave work at work and don't bring it into your personal life. I think that's very important. I think yeah, like, your secondary trauma is real, right? So you're dealing with people that are going through some tough times, and you're dealing with multiple people with different tough situations all day. And so being able to separate that from your life and like have your friends and family and people that you hang out with, and you're just like enjoying what you have, like that is not, you're not taking away from other people just by being able to do that. In fact, you actually are able to build yourself up a bit more and let you then have the energy to continue helping people when you go back into that situation the next day. So that, I mean, I try to maintain that. Doesn't always work, but you do what you can, do your best.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Leave work at work. I know some people that could shut it off, turn it off, compartmentalize. Like the work could be blowing up and they come home happy, like, hey, like, how did you do that? I don't know, but I know it's possible. So thank you for that. Thank you for the person who put it in the chat, and thank you also, Trevor. Danniela.
I agree with Trevor. I think, we spend 8 hours of our day, listening to other people's stories and worrying about the problems and, everything that's going on in the world. So I think after, we get off of work, it's important to maybe prioritize family, going out, doing things, going to the park, going grocery shopping, baking, cooking, all of that stuff I think is important. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I think for me, when I look at the sites of shaping and I look at the spiritual, for me, I have to have that spiritual grounding because this world is messed up. It's messed up. It's messed up. There's so much messed up stuff going on, but I can absolutely look to the hills from which cometh my help and know that this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. And it's supposed to be this way, and it's okay, right? We're not going to be here forever. I do want to acknowledge some of the things in the chat because I love it, and I've been reading it and listening at the same time. But Natasha said, for every person fighting to put these cruel policies in place, there are so many people fighting to oppose them. You're not alone, and there are so many people on your side. And I agree, and I love that. And I will say that in the state of Washington, I feel like we are in a really good place. There are some states where the folks agree with all of the things. And in this state, we have a lot of folks that do not agree with none of the things. So I do believe that we are blessed to be where we are. Um, did you have something, Rocky?
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, I just think we also need to start to realize that we're going to have to be the voice of change as well. Like we're the ones that are going to have to be the ones that are organizing and putting the people together and we can't just sit on the sidelines anymore and just like wait for this to occur. Like it's past that point for a lot for our communities, and so we have to like really go out there and do some, organizing activism type of stuff and to get our communities, up and doing stuff. I think that's just where I'm at. So
I totally agree with you. I have been one of those people who just kind of like put my nose down and keep it moving.
mm.
And here lately, with all the things that's happening, it makes me want to activate. It makes me feel like, you know what, this is my responsibility. This is the only way that it's going to happen. If we have become those people, and I'm admitting I was that person that's like, oh, that's their problem. I'm gonna let them deal with it. That's political. I don't got nothing to do with it. But I've recently started saying, no, this is a us problem. This is a we problem. And so I agree with you on that, Rocky. I just got a text 2 days ago about some community organizing that's going on with some of the unions. Like they're having all these different fights that they're doing. And it's like, I can show up for that. I can show up in different ways. So I admonish all of us to see if there's ways that we can show up, if there's ways that we can advocate for this change. I just want to acknowledge what Haley said in the chat. She said, I found that acknowledging the responsibility of the systems in place and the oppression that is baked into our current dominant system has brought a lot of emotional validation and relief for folks. And also acknowledging that their situation is not their fault alone is super huge. Well, she didn't say super, I said super, but she said huge. So thank you for that, Haley. Ryan said, get love and be ready to receive love. Our son learned to give big hugs a few weeks ago. And it's like medicine at 4:30. I love that for you. Okay. This is just all good stuff. Regina says she started a private company in Washington to counter complacency and be an agent of change. Let's go, Regina. Right? Being that agency of change is so important, and not just burying our head in the sand and thinking that it's going to go away and it's not our responsibility. Before I turn it over, I know I said I was, but yeah, one more question. My one more question is, how can we support you all and support the work that you're doing? Is there any acts that you have anyway? And don't ask for no money because we ain't got none. But but if there are other ways that we can support the work that you all are doing or elevate, some of the things that are going on in your community, in your world, in your business, in your organization, let us know.
Well, in our organization, we offer many other services like immigration, education, employment. If anybody would like to come and volunteer or even donate some of their time, it would just be very helpful because we have other people that speak other different languages from many other cultures. So if you can even come and volunteer your time, that would be great.
Oh, I love that. And the organization is the Tacoma
Tacoma Community House in Tacoma.
Community House. And so if we know folks that are very concerned or fearful about immigration and things like that, you all have support and programming in place that we can point them to, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you for that, Danniela. I know I didn't know that, so that's super helpful. What about you, Rocky?
Yeah, so we just finished up with the bank blast challenge, which is just finished up, but we're starting our business cohort. So on May 29th, we'll start that programming. So if anybody's interested in business, like starting their own business, it's a 5-week accelerated program that we're going to be starting, so they can join that if they'd like to. We're going to offer online and also in person at our North Seattle locations, and just and that's what I have for right now.
Well, Rocky, it says United Indians of all tribes, and forgive my ignorance because hopefully I'm not the only one. But is your support and programming specifically for United Indians of all tribes? Is it open to anyone, or how does that work?
So I'm a Karuk tribal member myself, but we also have service for everybody. So anybody that, from the from our communities can come and use our services. And so it's especially for the CRA funding, some of our programs are more geared towards our native communities, but this particular funding is geared for everybody that wants to come and be a part of our programs. So
Thank you for clarifying that. Because I know sometimes, going back to what we talked about in the abundance mindset and understanding that representation matters. And sometimes we can invent barriers in our head, like I just did. Invented a barrier that United Indians of all tribes are for Native and Native communities. So thank you for clarifying that.
I also want to clarify that First Nations and also our Hispanic population are Native Americans. Like we are all native to North America. And so like it's really, I know we distinct those in our communities and our societies, but really when it comes down to, for me at least, like we all are from this Turtle Island, we all are from here. And like, so just trying to make sure that that's something that we talk about as well. So sorry. Thank you.
No, thank you. Don't apologize. I need these clarifying moments. It's super helpful. Thank you. And Trevor.
Yes, I was quickly trying to look up. I found the Facebook page for it. Hopefully I can find a better flyer later, but we are going to be having World Refugee Day 2025 on June 28th at Foster High School from 12 to 5. It's free, but there's going to be a lot of like dances and performances, as well as like dishes and vendors as well from all the refugee communities. Just supporting the communities and just like celebrating is more about what it's about, right? Celebrating the communities that we have. So I'll put the link to the Facebook page in the chat, and if I find something better, I'll send it to Abby to give everyone as well. So
Thank you so much. And what day is this?
it's June 28th.
June 28th is Refugee Day?
World Refugee Day, yep.
Okay, so
Or
about a week
celebration,
after
yeah.
Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love that. So Juneteenth is June 19th, for those of you who don't know. Juneteenth, and then World Refugee Day. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Listen, we appreciate you all being here, sharing your stories, and being vulnerable and open with all of this amazing information, especially during these challenging times and crises. We encourage you to continue to take care of yourselves in all the ways that you see fit, and also just spread that love to someone else, spread that abundance to someone else. And so we appreciate it. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being on the panel. Thank you for availing yourself for this particular session.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very
You're
much.
quite welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, so I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. She's going to wrap it up and give us next steps, and she'll take it from here.
Before I do that, though, Jenefeness, I want to turn the final question back to you.
Mhm.
What do you need? How can we all support you in your work in this time?
Thank you so much. So I think what I need, I just need us to continue doing what we're doing. We're all in this work. We're all in this fight. I think in order for us to be in this, we have big hearts, right? To be helping other folks, to be in community service work, which we're all in. Just continue to be us and continue to connect. I think sometimes the assumptions that we make, just like the assumption that I made about United Indians of all tribes, that can create barriers that are not necessary, right? They can create barriers that are not even real. So making sure that we're being curious, asking questions, and just leaning in, I think. But thank you for asking that.
Thank you, Jenefeness. Thank you for sharing today. Thank you also to our panelists. I want to drop a few reminders in the chat. Oh, Ryan beat me to it. Look at that. If this has been a helpful conversation, you will love the Financial Coaching Network. If you're not connected there yet, there's the link to get connected. Our next meeting is next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and the topic is self-care for coaches during these times. So we can talk more about this. Also, if you missed it, I wanted to drop a link or a couple of links from our workshop in March. In March, our workshop was focused on supporting the financial wellness of immigrant and refugee communities. We talked quite a bit about that today. So I want to make sure folks have the link to that recording. as well as the Appleseed Network shared their deportation planning manual, which is available online for everybody. So I want to make sure folks have access to that. So I just dropped that in the chat as well. And then as a reminder, as Abby shared earlier, next month we start our credit series, because guess what? The credit system keeps going even while the crisis is happening all around us. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion keep doing their thing. So join us in June. We'll learn all about credit reports, Credit 101. And then we will have a couple of other sessions over the summer. In July, we'll be focused on collections and medical debt. In August, on student loan repayment options. So please join us there. And thank you all so much for being here today. Ryan dropped the link in the chat for our survey. How do we decide what each workshop will be focused on? Guess what? It's from all of you. So if you have thoughts about future conversations that you would like to have, thoughts about today's conversation, please take just a moment and fill out that survey. We really do look at each and every one and consider that feedback when we're planning our future events. So thank you for taking a moment to do that. I think that's it for today. I haven't wrapped up a workshop for a minute, so if I'm forgetting something, sorry, but thank you all for being here, and we will see you again soon. Have a good rest of your afternoon and take care of yourselves.